In the driver's ed car, an ordinary lesson was taking place between an 18-year-old student and his 67-year-old instructor. The old man had been saying the same calm phrases for years, but when a dangerous situation suddenly appeared before them, the instructor's instantly changed reflexes and perfect driving techniques would reveal this quiet man's true past. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. In one of the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona, there was a small driving school on Main Street. The Desert Driving Academy sign had faded in the sun, and the building looked as ordinary as dozens of others in the city. Inside were 3 old training cars, plastic chairs, and traffic signs hanging on the walls. This wasn't a place where dreams came true, just a mandatory stop for teenagers trying to get their licenses. Walter Hayes was 67 years old, gray-haired, and a quiet man. He had been working as an instructor here for 15 years. Every morning at 8 a.m., he would arrive, drink from the same thermos of coffee, check the same old Ford Focus, and wait for the day's first student. Never late, never complaining, never talking too much. His students called him Mr. Hayes, but most just thought of him as the old instructor. Nobody really knew much about Walter's past. Even Paul Miller, the driving school owner, had only learned when hiring him that his references were excellent and his driving skills were superior. Walter had simply written "former government employee" on his resume, providing no other details. Nobody had seen the need to inquire further. That Tuesday morning, 18-year-old Jake Morrison had come for training. A high school senior, Jake wanted to get his license as quickly as possible and gain his freedom like his friends. He was tall, with his head full of basketball thoughts, a typical American teenager. When he first saw Walter, like other students, he thought, another old, boring instructor. "Good morning, Jake," Walter said in his calm voice. "Today we'll practice city driving. Have you done your vehicle checks?" Jake nodded. Walter always followed the same routine. Mirrors, brakes, seatbelt, seat adjustment. Everything had to be millimeter perfect. Jake found this excessive, but he didn't object. He just planned to finish these lessons and take the test. They started the Ford Focus and slowly merged into traffic. Walter's teaching style was always the same: calm, patient, minimal conversation. Turn right, slow down, check your mirror. Simple, short sentences. Jake sometimes wondered why the instructor was so composed. Nothing seemed to excite him. The lesson had lasted about 45 minutes. As they headed toward downtown Phoenix, Walter was constantly checking the surroundings as always. Jake thought this was just instructor diligence. In reality, Walter was scanning for potential threats with a habit developed over years. Rearview mirror, side mirrors, license plates of surrounding vehicles, suspicious movements. Everything was automatically processed in his mind. "Jake, turn left at the next intersection," Walter said in his usual calm tone. As Jake prepared to maneuver, something caught Walter's attention. In the rearview mirror, there was a black Chevy Suburban following them. It was following too closely, and the people inside were watching them through sunglasses. Walter's 25 years of experience told him this wasn't an ordinary traffic situation. "Jake, we're changing the plan," Walter said, his voice still calm but with a tension Jake didn't notice. "Keep going straight." Jake shrugged. Instructors sometimes changed their minds. He continued straight. But Walter had started checking the rearview mirror more frequently. The black vehicle was still behind them, maintaining distance. What was suspicious was that a normal car wouldn't follow so disciplined in city traffic. A few blocks later, Walter conducted a test. "Jake, pull into the parking area on the right. Let's take a break." Jake was surprised. The lesson wasn't over yet, but he didn't object. He pulled into the parking area. Walter watched through the rearview mirror. The black car stopped a little ahead, engine running, waiting. Walter's heart didn't race, but alarm bells started ringing in his mind. The instincts that had kept him alive for 25 years when facing such situations were kicking in. "Mr. Hayes, is there a problem?" Jake asked, noticing the instructor's changing body language. "No, Jake, just checking the engine sound," Walter lied. He was fighting an internal battle between his old identity and his current ordinary life. But if there really was danger, Jake's safety was the priority. "Let's get back on the road," Walter said. "This time I'll take the wheel." Jake was surprised. Instructors rarely took over the wheel, only in emergencies. "Why? Did I make a mistake?" "No, we'll just try a different route," Walter said as they switched places. Now he was in the driver's seat, and for the first time, Jake saw his instructor's real driving posture. Hands in perfect position on the steering wheel, eyes constantly moving, body language completely changed. Walter started the car and merged into traffic. But this time, it wasn't a normal training drive. It was driving ready for sudden maneuvers, constantly calculating alternative routes. Though Jake wasn't aware, Walter had switched back to operational mode after many years. The black car was still behind them. Walter performed several test maneuvers, sudden lane changes, unexpected turns, speed variations. The black car maintained pursuit each time. There was no doubt now. This was professional surveillance. "Mr. Hayes, aren't we going a bit fast?" Jake asked, noticing the instructor's changed driving style. "Just adapting to traffic," Walter said. But in his mind, he was forming emergency plans, nearby safe points, escape routes, communication protocols, procedures he had learned 25 years ago and never forgotten. That's when everything changed. The black Suburban suddenly accelerated and came alongside them. The rear window opened, revealing armed men inside. Jake's scream hung in the air, because at that moment, Walter Hayes revealed the identity he had hidden for 25 years. "Get down!" Walter shouted, but now his voice was completely different, authoritative, clear, commanding. At the same time, he jerked the steering wheel left and made a sudden maneuver. The Ford Focus moved as if it were a Formula One car. Jake found himself clinging to his seat. Walter's driving had completely transformed. This was no longer a driving school instructor, but the performance of a professional driver. Walter looked in the rearview mirror, calculated the black car's position, and suddenly hit the brakes. The car behind them passed by their side and fell in front. Walter immediately turned right onto an alternative road. "What's happening?" Jake shouted, in shock. "Can't talk now," Walter said, eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. "Keep your seatbelt tight." The next 10 minutes were the most incredible driving performance Jake had ever seen in his life. Walter had perfect control, as if he had been driving the car for 30 years, navigating through narrow streets, sudden turns, ramp-jumping maneuvers. Jake was confused. Was this man really just an ordinary driving school instructor? With one final maneuver, Walter outmaneuvered the black car and entered a shopping mall parking lot. He hid their car in the back, among other vehicles, and turned off the engine. They waited, breathing heavily. "Mr. Hayes," Jake said, his voice trembling. Who are you really?" Walter remained silent for a long time. The true identity he had hidden for 15 years was now exposed in front of an 18-year-old kid. He removed his hands from the steering wheel and turned to Jake. "My name is Walter Hayes," he said slowly. "But for 25 years, I had a different job." Jake waited without blinking. "I was a Secret Service agent," Walter said. "From 1982 to 2007, I was one of the personal drivers for presidents and vice presidents." Jake's mouth fell open. "Reagan, Bush, Clinton, the second Bush." Walter continued. "Assassination attempts, bomb attacks, threat situations. I saw them all, survived them all. And now, 15 years later, these skills saved lives again. Jake was still in shock. But why did you never mention it? Why did you become a driving instructor? Walter smiled. It was the first time Jake had seen him smile. Because, Jake, real heroes are silent. I did my job, served my country. Now I want to live an ordinary life, until I need to protect innocent people like you. That day, Jake didn't just learn to get his license. He also learned that real heroes sometimes hide in the most ordinary places. Walter Hayes never told his stories, never bragged about his past. He just came to work every morning, taught his students safe driving, and continued to serve quietly. Because that's how real heroes behave. So what do you think Jake learned that day? And have you ever encountered someone like Walter Hayes? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story touched you, subscribe to help keep these kinds of stories alive.